Hello, this is Mark Sabatella from Outside Shore Music. Now, on my website, the Outside Shore Music community, we are working on oral skills, so you're going to hear me talking about that a lot in these videos. One of the things that entails is sight singing. And I'm not a singer, right? Anyone who watches my videos knows I'm not a singer. But sight singing, you don't sight sing without singing some. And so we want to get to a certain level of competency in singing. I'm not. My standards are pretty low for this. I want to be accurate enough with the pitch that I can tell what notes I'm trying to sing, and someone else can tell what notes I'm trying to sing. And if I'm a little flat or sharp, whatever, I'm not going to care about that. I'm not going to care about vocal projection, vowel. I don't care about any things that real singers care about. I care about ability to really get the pitches that I want to get. So I want to talk about how we might actually practice for this. And there's people who are actual singers. There's all sorts of vocal warm-up exercises you do that are very useful for that purpose. And some of them I think also can be useful for us who are not necessarily singers but just want to improve our ability to get pitches. So I'm just going to go through three simple things here that you can do. One is just singing the major scale. This is just such a simple thing to do, but it's so important that we know where the major scale is in our voice. So if I was trying to play it on the piano and my piano's not on, but that's good, I'm going to leave it off. C, and in whatever octave is comfortable for you, just sing using either solfege, note names, or whatever else you feel like. That's not actually what's going to be important here. I'm going to use solfege though. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And what I want to do is find out, was I close enough at the end? I was a little flat, but I also know I'm straining my voice a little bit. I can normally sing that note better, but I'm a little hoarse today. So you want to get to the point where you can kind of tell how you're doing with this. And just singing the scales and singing it slowly, stopping, for instance, on that G on sol. Do, 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 re, mi, fa, sol. And see if you're at the right place or use a piano to tell you. The other thing you'd want to do is just sing this simple little exercise where you sing up to sol and down. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Usually when you sing that as a vocal drill, you don't use syllables. You just la 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 la, and right, you practice different vowel sounds there. But maybe actually think about solfege. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, and try that in different keys and so forth. Oh, and that the thing that we typically do is ba ba da 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 dum. Then we go up to D flat, do 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 do. Then we go up to D, do 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 do. And if you've done those sort of drills, you sort of get used to what it means to go up in half steps like that. Realistically, real music doesn't do that. So that in itself, it's a great vocal warm up to do that thing of going up in half steps, but it's being able to nail those, taking that line up a half step every time you sing it isn't that important for sight singing, because real music doesn't do that. Well, let's talk about something real music does do. You're going to hear me also in other situations go on a soapbox about intervals and how learning to sing different intervals is somewhat overrated, in that being able to know the difference between a major sixth and a minor sixth in your voice, or to hear them. I won't get into it here. Let's just say that this in itself isn't the most valuable skill, only to the extent that we can apply it to melodies. And part of this has to do with the fact that usually when we learn to hear and sing those intervals, it's based on a very certain set of intervals. We're not learning the major sixth between all scale degrees. We're learning one particular major sixth from sol to mi. There was my soapbox right there, mini version. However, the one exception to that is the third. Real music does very often do this, skip around in thirds, and being able to sing a scale broken up in thirds ends up teaching your voice some very useful things about the structure of that major scale. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to force myself to sing solfege syllables, but I don't actually think that that's going to be as useful as what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to play the notes on my keyboard. The reason I'm going to do this is I want to know what I'm singing. I don't want to just get this pattern into my voice and not be conscious of it. But solfege syllables forces me to be a little too conscious. So for me, playing it silently on the keyboard is going to be my solution here. So I'm going to sing do da 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 dum, and I'll check my pitch. Pretty good, right? That pattern of going up in thirds, down a step, up, up a third, down a step, up a third, down a step, and keeping it within the major scale. This is really where you start to cross the line between just a really mindless exercise, which the scales can be, to something where you're really starting to hear something that you can apply to sight singing. So I'm going to recommend that you practice spending some time doing that in different keys. So let's go ahead and turn the keyboard on. I could do the same thing in the key of, say, A flat. Do da 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 da, and check myself at the end. Right? That sort of exercise I think is going to be useful not just as a vocal warm-up, but actually as a sight singing drill to teach yourself something about how the major scale actually gets used in creating melodies. So when you go to sight sing actual melodies, when you see patterns of thirds, which do happen fairly often, maybe not the entire scale like that, but patterns involving thirds are pretty common, and this kind of sets you up for some amount of success in doing that. So hopefully you find some use in this, and I hope you have fun practicing these drills and maybe see some results in improving your sight singing.